Yeah, Spurs are on a really bad losing skid.
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome back to Locked On Spurs right here on the Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for Ken's 5 San Antonio. Glad to have y'all back. Happy MLK Day. Hope y'all are taking the holiday in and just enjoying it. So, thanks for making Locked On Spurs your first listen every single day. Free and available wherever you get podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, Ken's 5 Plus app. You know where to go. Sign up right now. Also, check out the Locked On Spurs newsletter. It's in the description below on YouTube side of things. Big old link there says LO Spurs newsletter. Click on that. It's completely free. Make sure you do and sign up right now. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Now is the perfect time to join. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 off. Well, $50 instantly, I should say, when you play your first $5 lineup. That's right. No need to win to get the bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks. Run your game. What are we talking about today? We got to talk about it. Got to talk about it. The losing skid. Is it bad? It's not? Sure. Okay, fine. It's not like last year, 18. Well, I don't know. At the rate the Spurs are going, maybe you might get that. But the point is, sure, it's a 3-game losing skid, but it's just the way they're losing is pretty bad. So we're going to look at the numbers. What do they have to say? What do the eye tests have to say? What is going wrong with the Spurs right now in these last 3 games as they head out to Paris for the Paris games? And then see what you guys are talking about on the Locked On Spurs YouTube page. You got a lot of fan comments. We'll pick 2 and react to it. So the Spurs, 3-game losing skid, huh? I got a little nugget here for you, and I want to read to you. This is how bad it's been. So, 3-game losing skid, right? You're going to say, okay, well, how bad can it be? Well, here we go. So, the Spurs are basically at the halfway point, right? And they've lost 3 games straight, which y'all know. They also lost 6 of their last 7, 9 of their last 13 games. It wasn't not that long ago where they were above 500. There were 2 games above 500 during a few days before Christmas. So this slide has just been bad. It's been bad. It's been quick. Something's going on. Mitch Johnson saying that they're just rushy shots, but it's not just that. The eye test tells you. I know you guys, some of you guys don't need numbers, right? I get that. But the eye test is telling you something else. The numbers are telling you something else. Mitch Johnson is saying something. What is going on with your silver and black? Let's go and discuss the Spurs in their losing skid. Bringing in our guest. He is Joe Garcia, Area 210 podcast very own. Joe, I got to get out of that. Area 210 podcast. I know you since you were 2 shots though, but welcome back, Joe.
Yeah, thank you so much, man, for having me back on Losi. It's always a pleasure talking Spurs basketball with you. But yeah, you've known me since 2 shots. We rebranded 2 shots and let that go. So now we're known as Area 210. That show that happens Monday through Friday with one Michael Jimenez as we do our daily show from 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Monday through Friday.
I approve of your cap today.
Oh, yeah, man. I would
just get the approval, man. Look at that. You got the, what's that, the Road Squadron? Is that the
X-Wing fighter, yeah. Has a little bit of, that Star Wars, what do you call it? Their language.
Their language. And there's actually a dictionary for it.
Yeah.
Actually, a real world dictionary for it. You can look up letters and phrases and figure out what they say. But I think you got that at Big Texas, right?
Yeah, Big Texas Comic-Con. I dropped a lot of money when I was out there, just on the floor, shopping around, getting a bunch of stuff out there, man. Good stuff that they have. But you're the same way, Jeff. So every time we go out there and you just get a little bit of time to go and scour the floor, forget it, dude. It's over.
I mean, one time you and I did that. We hit the floor and I was like, man, how much money did we drop? I mean, fast. Yeah, it's fast. But you guys are not here for nerd talk. You guys are here for silver and black. That's what Joe's going to help me do today. We're going to be discussing what is going on with this 3-game losing skid the Spurs around. Now, Joe, we'll get to the numbers in a few minutes, but the eye test, something's going on. You don't have to look at numbers. We'll look at them anyway, but you don't have to look at it. This team is just night and freaking day. Start off pretty good. I'm not saying great, but, at least within fighting distance. And then the wheels just come off in the 3rd period. And that's just decimates the team. They can't recover. It wasn't that long ago where the Spurs were usually hanging on to leads and winning. We saw that very early in the season. They have a double-figure lead, just a lead in general, going into the final frame, and they were hanging on. Those days they're just done. They're done. Those days are long over. They are getting trounced. They've lost by 20 or more points in their 3-game losing skid. So when I look at this, what's going on, at least what the eye test tells me is they just cannot play 48 minutes of basketball, period. I'm tired of giving them excuses like, well, just one game here, one game here. They just can't put a complete game together. And this is a pattern, and this is the bad pattern, Joe. Joe, why can't they put I'm not even asking for 4 periods of basketball. Give me at least 3.5, something. Joe, nothing. You can't even ask this team for that. Joe, your thoughts?
No, that's just a bad team. Right now, they're just not a good team. And it's like, as currently constructed, right? Even going back a couple seasons, the team has just showed you they're just not a good team. Mm-hmm. And I think Spurs fans are starting to see that. And a lot of Spurs fans, too, I've seen on the X going on there, the Spurs Twitter, and they're like, oh, it's because we don't have Jeremy Sochan. We need Jeremy Sochan. He ain't going to help this team. What's he going to do? He's not going to score you points. He's going to go out there and play defense, do a lot of the little dirty work. But at the end of the day, he's not the savior of this team. The problem with the San Antonio Spurs team as currently constructed is they revert back to doing what does not win games. They can't play defense. They can't go ahead and stop the 3 ball, right? And the other thing that they do, which is really frustrating to Spurs fans, is how they go ahead and play as a team on the court, making poor decisions with the ball, shooting too early, into the shot clock. They're just chunking up threes to end games, when they're down by 3 or 1, instead of making a good decision with the ball and getting it to the right player. They're just chunking up threes coming down the court. Yeah. There's like 20 seconds left on the clock. You know what? I'm going to shoot it. And they'll advise 3. And what happens? The long rebound goes the other way. The other team goes and scores. And the Spurs just can't play good transition defense either. This team is just looking worse and worse by the minute, dude. As every, let's say, week goes by, you're just seeing them digress more and more and more. Yeah. The only thing I think at this point that's going to really help this team is that Mitch Johnson, in the front office, they all have to go ahead and come to the realization of there's a trait that needs to be had, man. These players right now that they have on the team, it's just not it, man. And I think Spurs fans are now starting to come to that realization. They were like, man, I thought we were going to be so much better. Yeah. Not with the talent that you have. That's the realization of things. This is as good as it's going to get, This is about it.
Yeah. Yeah, and you look at just the Wemby right now, he looks gassed. He really does. We haven't seen like a dominant Wemby game in quite some time where he's just doing everything. And I think they rely too much on him. So when the head of the snake is tired, everything is going to wilt. And you're looking at what's even frustrating is Devin Vassell. Okay, I know there's fans, on both sides of the fence when it comes to him, but he's been putting together some pretty good games scoring wise, 20 plus points in the losing skid. So you're losing out on those efforts. You have somebody who technically is stepping up to be that second guy for Wemby, but they're just coming in losses. Hey, look, we're going to get to this in a while, but you're looking at the last game against Miami. They gave up tying a season high, 46 freaking points in the third quarter to Miami. So it's like they go from staying competitive, playing mildly decent, defense, and then it's like the wheels come off. Like, what happened between end of second period and the start of the third, where everything just goes kaboom in the last 3 games, which is our L's. Joe, is it just something as simple as maybe they just need a good swift kick in the butt? Chris Paul, Harrison Barnes, Mitch Johnson, Popovich, put them on speakerphone. They just need to wake up. Could it be something as simple as that? As maybe it's not a numbers thing, a rotation thing. Maybe it's just between the years.
I think it has more to do than that. It's a low basketball IQ. If you look at how the teams have beaten the Spurs over the course of the last couple of games, a lot of the teams that are beating the Spurs, they're outdoing them in third quarters. They're shooting lights out, and it's because of the way that they play. Especially when you're looking at a team kind of like Memphis, for example, that bested the Spurs. Most recently before Miami, the way that they were able to do this with their second and third string out there is they were moving the ball really well. They were moving well without the ball, a lot of fluidity to their offense. getting set, draining open threes. They knew exactly what they wanted to do and how they wanted to execute their game plan out there on the court. And it wasn't flashy, it wasn't sexy. It was just playing good fundamental basketball. The Spurs, unfortunately, they don't have that. They can't play consistent fundamental basketball. And if you can't go ahead and have a good base to build on, you're going to be kind of caught in flux where everybody's playing hero ball. And that's exactly what's happening right now. You have Wemby wanting to go ahead and do everything he can out there, and he's looking so tired because he's having to work overtime and having to try to be this great player that everybody wants him to be. And he's just tired, man. He needs help from the supporting cast, which the supporting cast, they can't figure out how to play good fundamental basketball. Hey, maybe if we actually pass the ball really well, we can find the open man. Maybe if we start moving well without the ball instead of camping out beyond the 3-point line, which we can't shoot. They can't shoot threes. The team just can't shoot threes. Why are you camped out and just looking at each other beyond the arc? I understand that they want them to shoot a high level of threes, but at the same time, you have to have the basics covered, right? Your basics, the fundamentals covered, and they don't. And that's the problem. They become a one-trick pony, and they can't shoot a consistent jumper. They can't shoot a good 3-point shot. So what happens? They're just chunking up, the ball, and hopefully it goes in, and then they go and fall behind in the third quarter because of poor shot selection. It's like, this is all falling on the coaches, I think, because the coaching staff needs to be able to get the best out of this team, and they still haven't figured it out. How do we get this team to play up to their billing,
Yeah. And another kind of a bad trend that we're seeing in this game, losing skid, is just the offensive end. We'll get to the defensive numbers in a bit. And let me tell you right now, they're bad. But look at the last game versus Miami. They were held just to 11 points in the second quarter. They couldn't generate any offense. That tied their lowest scoring quarter for the season. The last time they did this was against the Nets on December 27th. In that game versus Miami, especially in the second quarter here, Joe, I have a note here. It says they just made 5 field goals in the quarter. That was it, including just one over an 8.55-minute span. They missed their last 9 shots on the floor. So we're seeing just a debacle on defense. We'll get more on that later. And we're seeing starting a new trend of a debacle on offense. Is it a lineup change? Do they need to bring in more energy guys off the bench? Maybe it's Mamu getting more minutes. Maybe it's, whatever. But he got to lose at this point. Put Blake Wesley out there. Something, anything, just to generate more energy. I think that's a bad mixture we're seeing so far. Low energy, bad shot selection, bad defense, offense is sputtering. Not a good point of their season outlook. All teams go there up and down. So they get it. Even the defending champs go up and down of their season. But we're starting to see a trend downward. And, we're trying to get away from the young team thing, Joe. I understand that. But, man, there's bad, and this is just bad. What's just demoralizing is they're getting trounced by 20 or more in this losing skid, Joe. Fine, you lose 3 games in a row, but Joe, if I look at the statue, okay, you're competitive. All right, you forced overtime. All right, so it came down to a free something. But Joe, they're just laying down and dying. Before we get into the numbers, Joe, what are your final thoughts? What does the Joe Garcia eye test tell you regarding this team in the last 3 games?
Oh man, that this team is just looking a bit dejected. They just seem to be dejected. They just seem to have their heads, down right now. They just can't figure things out, and it shows that there's some frustration that's growing amongst the players themselves. Not so much that it's between, there's tension there between them, but it's just the frustration part of not being able to go out there and execute, not being able to play up to, I think, their standards of what they had envisioned for themselves. At the end of the day, it's just accountability. They have to just look at each other and decide, as a collective group, let's play better. But if they can go ahead and get the bases covered, if they can figure out how to play good fundamental basketball, that's going to kind of fix a lot of the other issues that they have in their game. They just can't keep doing the same thing and expect to win. You got to have some type of change. And the thing is, when they played their best, I think it was when they were getting out in the open court, when they were really making it a collective group. As a collective group, they were playing good, solid defense. At least, at the beginning of quarters or end of quarters, do something. It doesn't mean that you have to play it for the full 48 minutes because no team in the NBA really does that anymore. But in order for you to win, you have to get stops. You have to be able to do these types of things when it matters, and I think right now that the Spurs are just kind of looking at each other for answers. And right now it doesn't seem like Chris Paul, Harrison Barnes, Mitch Johnson, the coaching staff, they don't have the magic fix for this team. I think maybe some downtime, some rest will do them some good right now, but that's not going to be something that's going to happen right away, Jeff, because what's looming in the distance, the upcoming rodeo road trip, and that's really going to be the make or break of the season for this San Antonio Spurs squad. And I'm seeing right now that their heart's just not in it right now, dude. If they go into that rodeo road trip playing the same way that they are right now, expect the same results. It might be a winless rodeo road trip. So they have to figure this out before they hit that massive road trip, because if not, it's going to be a huge skid.
All right. We gave you the eye test. Now we're going to give you what the numbers say. So we're going to dive into some analytic numbers coming up next. How bad is it for the Spurs in this losing skid? Brace yourself. If you got to take a shot of something, to drown your sorrows, might be the time to do that right now. He is Joe Garcia with Area 210 Podcast. Follow him on X at Area 210 Podcast. Makes it easy for you. Yeah, when we get up, come back. Yeah, we're going to be looking at those numbers. First, let's talk about Prize Picks. Basketball season is heating up, and there's no better way to get real money action while watching your favorite NBA stars than with Prize Picks. Whether you're a diehard fan or just love some friendly competition, Prize Picks makes it easy and fun to turn your basketball knowledge into cash. Here's how it works. Pick more or less on at least two players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Think LeBron's going to drop 30? You think Wemby's going to grab 20 rebounds? Or maybe Luka Doncic is going to get more than 8 assists? Prize Picks lets you make your predictions and put your money where your mouth is in just 60 seconds. Look, you got to use Prize Picks all season long. You'll have a blast. You'll be able to pick players, like from Wembanyama to Devin Vassell to Jeremy Sochan. Pick a player on your favorite Spurs team, and you'll have some fun with it with using Prize Picks. It's the kind of action that I'm talking about. And with Prize Picks Flex Pay option, even if one of your picks don't hit, well, you can still double your money. Plus, once you hit, you get money fast, sometimes in quick as 15 minutes. And honestly, the best way to keep up with the exciting game of NBA. Now is the perfect time to join. Download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. That's right. No need to win to get the bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game.
As the new leader of the Decepticons, I command you to subscribe to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
We're back right here on Locked On Spurs with Joe Garcia, Area 210 Podcast. Joe, I don't want to alarm you, but there's an alien behind you.
Oh, I know.
Alien behind you. Be careful, Joe. Be careful.
He's going to beat me up, right?
Oh, you don't want that, man. Hey, did you see that supposed egg retrieval that was leaked? The UFO egg?
No, man. That? No, I don't see that, dude. It's probably AI generated or something, nowadays.
You just can't trust anything nowadays. No. You just can't at all. But again, he is Joe Garcia. Make sure to follow my X at Area 210 Podcast. He'll brag about his show in just a few minutes. So we're talking about the Spurs losing skid. It continues, and it's not even an easy pill you could swallow. Like I said, Joe, in the first half, fine, if you're losing a couple points, you're competitive, and it's coming down just to things here and there, you can live with that. But this team is rolling over and dying. They're just wilting. And it all starts in the third period. So, Joe, I think the right way to start this segment is to look at the numbers in the third period in this losing skid. So we're going to look at the last 3 games, all right? So, Joe, brace yourself. Everybody watching, brace yourself. Their net rating in the third period in this losing skid, Joe, San Antonio, a minus 66.8, good for dead last in the NBA. It gets better. Let's break that down a little further. Their offensive rating, Joe, I don't know if they can generate any offense. They have an offensive rating in this 3-game losing skid, 92.5, good for 28th in the league. And this is the big problem in the third quarter. It vanishes, Joe. How bad does it vanish? They're dead last. Defensive rating of, I don't even want to say the number, Joe. You're probably not going to believe me, but it's 159.3 in the third quarter. Defensive rating of 159.3. Those stats are courtesy of Pivot Fade, by the way. Joe, it's ugly. I just read you the numbers. Why do you think that third period is an issue?
Again, man, you just that's up to the, basically holding the coaching staff accountable for getting the players ready to come out and play in that second half. First and second quarters, they might be okay, maybe up, or they're going to be a couple points down. But then that third quarter, they just get decimated lately. And there's no good reason for it other than just a lack of effort. That's all you can go ahead and say. It's very messy. When you see what the Spurs are doing in that third quarter, it's a very convoluted game. There's no continuity to their offense, their defense. They make a lot of mistakes, turnovers, poor decision-making with the ball. I mean, you name it, it happens all in the third quarter, and it's consistent. That's the one thing that the Spurs have consistently done. And the losing consistently bad in the third quarter. And I don't know what needs to happen. Maybe a change in the lineup. Maybe something needs to happen there. But right now, there's just no continuity to them. They're just come out flat, dude, just flat.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's frustrating for Spurs fans, and I'm sure it's frustrating for the players. But at the end of the day, I mean, they have to be held accountable for how they go ahead and perform out there on the court. And I'm sure that, those players do listen, because they're told, like, listen to Los or listen to these guys over here bad mouthing you or having an opinion about you. And, at the end of the day, they can listen and they can have their own opinion. But us, we're entitled to our own opinions as well. And if they don't want, let's say, all the negative feedback that they're getting, play better. It's that simple.
Absolutely.
Winning makes everything better, Jeff. That's all they need to do. Get back on the winning track.
Yeah, I know. And, before we get to more of the reaction to this, but I want to take you and the listeners and watchers on the YouTube side of things, kind of a journey in this third period from the first period down to the fourth period. So, and I'm just going to go based off net rating. Okay, so Joe, they come out pretty strong in this losing skid. Their first period looks like this. They're actually ninth in net rating at 17.1. Their offensive rating is actually pretty good in the first period in this losing skid, 117.1. And the defensive rating is not bad at all. It's 8th in the league, good for 100. So they're okay. They come out pretty competitive. But look at this. Look how dramatic it goes from the first period to the end of game. Second period, this is where the bad begins, all right? They go to a minus 3.8 net rating. Their offensive rating plummets to 23rd in the NBA at 106.8. Defensive rating is still staying strong, though. This is interesting. It's still 8th in the league at 110.5. So the first sign of trouble, if anybody's watching, especially the next game, watch for that second quarter. If you start seeing their offense sputtering, that's not a good sign, because we talked about the third period, again, a minus 66.8. That's the Achilles heel in this losing skid. It's that third period. They're just lacking, you know what, Joe, in that third period. And the final frame, it's not getting any better. Minus 28.4. Net rating is that number, and the offensive rating goes to 11th in the NBA, 129.6. So they kind of wake up. They wake up, and they're like, oh, we got to start scoring. Okay, well, let's start doing this. But the defense gets even worse, Joe. In the fourth period, in this losing skid, they're dead last, Joe. 158 net rating. Compare that to the third period where they're 159. It doesn't get any better. It just stays stagnant. So if we have to bottle it down to what is going on with the Spurs, it's this. This is the signs you look for. Watch for the second quarter if the offense starts sputtering. Okay, that's not a good sign. But if it's going good, that might change things. Third quarter, collapse. Fourth quarter, defense is not there. Offense starts rising. So it feels like they got to score. We got to score. We got to get numbers up. But they're letting the other team just score. Rich Johnson said that after the game versus Miami, say, we're just speeding up shots. The pace is throwing off. I think the Spurs need to exercise their pace. I think the Spurs need to put their physicality first. Joe, I think it starts there. For me, they got to control pace. They got to be the ones to punch right away, and they got to sustain it. What do you think?
Yeah, I kind of want to push back a little bit, too. I think you have good points there. But I think at the end of the day, what happens is that the Spurs team just plays soft. especially when they come out in that third quarter, fourth quarter.
Yeah.
What happened
was soft, right?
I'm calling them
a soft team.
They're a soft team right now because they don't have any ganas. They don't come out and want to win. They have that winning attitude, especially in that third quarter. What happens is that they get bullied by the other team. The physicality gets increased. They start getting pressured. The defense takes an increase there, and the Spurs start kind of folding. And that's what happens is that they get dejected. They can't go ahead and get into their passing lanes anymore because those are getting blocked. They're getting pushed. They're getting different switches coming out on them. And they don't really know how to react. And that's the thing with this team. It's like you can't say, oh, well, they're still young. They're still learning. You can't give them that pass anymore. Like Chris Paul had even said, the players on this team have played together for at least a couple of years. They don't get a pass and say, oh, well, this is a very young team. It's not like they have G Leaguers on here anymore.
Right.
They have veterans on this team. Yeah, some of these guys might be young, but it doesn't give them the excuse to go ahead and go out there and just not play up to your billing, up to your full potential. And there's a problem there. There's a definite issue. And the thing is that if a team is going to go ahead and increase the physicality in the second half, and you know that, why aren't you playing and coming out and matching that intensity? The thing is with the Spurs, again, they're just a soft team, and I think Mitch Johnson has gone on to say the same thing. Coach Pop, when he was the head coach, has gone on to say the same thing. And you think the players would actually want to respond at some point and take that as, hey, it's a personal insult. We need to go ahead and play better. How dare they call us soft? And instead they just fold, dude. And it's at the end of the day, it's just, there's no rhyme or reason for it. Why can't this team, finally figure it out and decide to play more physical in that third and fourth quarter? How do they expect to win in a highly contested Western Conference and then go and play in the Eastern Conference, when they have these other teams that they play on the road too, and playing up against the better teams in the NBA? You're not going to win by just playing sloppy basketball. Look what happened with the Bucks. They got outright embarrassed, and there was just no pride. There's just no ganas. Like our fans say, Jeff, what do they call it? Wimpy ganas.
Yep.
Not putting forth that effort. You just come out and lay an egg, you're flat. And that's exactly what this team has done in the third and fourth quarters. They just come out flat. They can't recover. They might make a little run here and there in the fourth quarter, but it's never enough. And the sad thing is, these things are easy to fix. At some point, they just got to look at each other and say, you know what? I'm tired of losing. That's what it's going to come down to, Jeff.
Let's go to break. Let's continue this chat. I got one more point to bring up with you, Joe, and then we'll get into the Locked On Spurs fan comments. Once again, he is Joe Garcia of Area 210 Podcast, always getting stalked by aliens on this show, as you can see on your screen behind you. Make sure to follow him on X at Area 210 Podcast. So, yeah, we're going to continue this chat, kind of wrap it up, and then get into your comments, Locked On Spurs fan comments. But first, let's talk about FanDuel.
From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. That's $300 to keep the action going. The FanDuel app is easy to navigate, so many ways to bet, keeps every game exciting. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. No waiting around for your winnings. So whether you're betting on your favorite team or just looking to add some extra excitement to the playoffs, FanDuel has you covered. You want to go there right now. You want to go visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
What's up, guys? This is KG Tang, voice of Sanami Shinizugawa and Demon Slayer, and you're watching Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
We're back right here on Locked On Spurs with Joe Garcia. But Joe, let's go to wrap up with the eye test and numbers say. So we kind of dived into that. We did, we broke down the defensive rating, offensive ratings, periods 1 through 4, what's going on with them, what signs to watch for. So you look at their competition in this 3-game boots: Miami, Memphis. Okay. One thing that those 3 teams have in common is they play bully ball, man. They get up on you. They're big. They're big team. Zach Edey, John Morant. John Morant's a superstar, in the league. Miami is just, a Spoelstra-led team. They bring the physicality. Whatever's going on with Jimmy Butler, put that aside. But they got those kind of dogs in them. Man, it's tough to say that this Spurs team needs dog because when I look at Chris Paul, I don't think he lacks dog. Harrison Barnes, he lacks dog. Wemby, I don't think he lacks dog. So, what do you think it is? You think it's just down to everybody else, I guess. The consistency. Julian Champagne. When was the last time he had a good shooting performance? Do you remember? I don't remember. What about you, Joe?
It's been quite some time, man. When he was in that starting lineup, I think he was playing at his best. But as of late, I mean, it's just been flat. And it's not just him per se. You can't just say print it on one particular player. It's the team as a whole. They've just been flat. And like again, Spurs fans say, "Oh, it's because they don't have Jeremy Sochan." I'm like, this guy is not going to be the savior of this team, man. They need another superstar, Jeff, and I think it's becoming more and more obvious that they're going to have to go ahead and get that said star to play again alongside Wemby to kind of shore up the issues that the Spurs are having. If the Spurs come back again and they're going to be without Chris Paul, who's going to be their point guard? Are they going to get better? Or are they going to digress even more? There's a lot of questions there,
Yeah, and then the starting lineup the Spurs used versus Miami was Castle, Barnes, Wemby, Vassell, and Chris Paul. Again, the numbers showed that the lineup of Wemby with Champagne, with Castle is correct. It was just different. It was different. The numbers showed it. There was one of the best starting units in the league for a while. And then Vassell came back in the lineup, Sochan came back in the lineup, etc. No, Joe, I gotta ask this. You think Sochan, you think his return could help or no?
No, I don't really think it's going to have much bearing on what's going to happen with the team out there on the court. They're continue to digress and play poor basketball. The thing that can help though, if Mitch Johnson did what he was doing before he brought Jeremy Sochan and Vassell into the starting lineup, have them come off the bench. There's no shame in coming off the bench. I don't know why it's such a stigma, that, oh man, you're coming off the bench and used to be a starter. You need to do what's more conducive to the team winning. And sometimes that means coming off the bench. Look at what happened with Manu. Manu would have been a starter on any other team, but he went ahead and said, you know what? Coach Pop wants me to come off the bench. I'm going to embrace that. I'm going to be the sixth man. And look at what happened. Because he went and came off the bench and gave more continuity. He gave that balance to the team. They went on to win championships. And I think if Jeremy Sochan and Vassell can get comfortable coming off the bench with that second unit and bringing much needed balance to the Spurs and having that first unit thrive, the best, 5 collective players that we had out there helping win games, then you got to do it. I don't know why they keep messing with that lineup. Go with what worked, and that's just the thing that's so frustrating with Spurs fans is seeing what worked. And you got a little taste of, man, this looks great. They're playing great basketball. And then they go ahead and get a healthy unit back and you insert one Jeremy Sochan and Vassell in there and it just doesn't look the same. I think at some point in time, you have to also look at this. You have to look at the chemistry and when the stats, and I bet you the numbers will show that when you have Vassell and Wemby on the court together at the same time, it's not good for Wemby. Wemby likes to go ahead and be the guy out there. And he plays better when you have, somebody else out there besides Sochan and Vassell. I think Vassell plays better without Wemby on there because Vassell can eat. He can get all those touches. He can get the ball and shoot and work. I just don't think these two pieces mesh well together. And I think that's what we're seeing here. And that's what the frustrating part is when you have Sochan and Vassell, that these pieces don't work well together, as a starting 5.
Yeah. I think it's time to bring back the starting 5, but we saw to start the season. Yeah, look, you got everything to gain at this point, like stopping a losing skid. That could help.
How much worse can it get, Jeff? Right?
Exactly. I was gonna say, how much worse can it get? Look at again another 40-point bomb on the Spurs by the opposition versus Miami. We saw that. We saw that against Memphis. 40-point bomb in the third. So yeah, you got everything to gain by trying to go back to that starting 5. But hey, those are our thoughts on the Spurs losing skid right now. We'll look at some of the numbers, give you the eye test. What do you think? What's going on with the Spurs? What ails them in these last 3 games? You can let Joe know on X at Area 210 Podcast. Let me know by subscribing to Locked On Spurs and leaving a comment over at the Locked On Spurs YouTube page. And speaking of YouTube page, Joe is going to dive into that. We're going to pick out 1 or 2 here. What are you guys talking about? Let's see. Let me dig through here. Drum roll, please. Here. By the way, this is not one of the comments we're going to react to, but you did get a shout out from Cheetah Going. They had this to say about you, Joe. They said, Joe cooking. Shout out to Joe. So, Joe, you're getting some love on the Locked On Spurs YouTube page there. Okay. So, here we go. Let's go and dive into this. First comment comes from, here we go, from Joey5821. He says, I would offer Devin and Sochan and multiple first-round picks for Cooper Flagg. Joe, fans are already talking about the draft already. I don't know if they're giving it up the season. But do you think Cooper Flagg is worth offering Devin and Sochan and multiple first-round picks?
I think it's a nice dream. I mean, if that's what the Spurs, this is what this fan wants, why not just have the Spurs tank the rest of the way, right? To try to get their chances, up and to get, one Cooper Flagg and maybe and get the number one overall pick again, right?
Yeah.
But, giving away the house for a maybe, I just don't think that's a safe bet. I see what he wants. They want to go ahead and get another big name to come in here. But again, you're getting younger. And I think the Spurs fix to all this is that you just can't get younger and go to the draft and expect that, oh, man, all these young players are magically going to mesh well together. Mm-hmm. They're projects, and I think what the Spurs really need is they need to go ahead and go after some established star or get some better pieces than what they have now and getting players that can actually shoot the ball, get bucket getters to surround Wemby. And what will happen, Jeff? Wow, look at how much better the team will look when they can actually knock down open jumpers, knock down an open three. Hey, they're playing, what the league calls basketball. Right now, it's just, not very, let's say, sexy out there. What you're seeing is a hot mess, Yeah,
exactly. Good comment. Thank you. We appreciate that. The next one is from Artist Jim, 114. He says, great video, guys. He goes, here we go, Joe. I think you're going to like this. I think that Sochan should come off the bench and electrify that second unit. They need him. And if he stays hot, then put him in the fourth quarter like we used to. So, Art, you're asking for Sochan to come off the bench, and I think that's what Joe and I talked about, is going back to that original starting unit, which did not include Sochan. And another reason I think it could work too, Joe, look, I get it. Also, Sochan is not known for offense. I understand that. But in that game versus Miami, the Heat bench, 73 points. Spurs bench, 32. So they got just crushed in the bench production. If it helps the second unit, whether it's Sochan's defense or whatever offense he can give, I think at this point you try. You take it. And again, the numbers showed that the starting unit without him worked. Joe, your thoughts?
Yeah, well, let's take it like this, Jeff. What did Jeremy Sochan do when he played in college? Came off the bench, right?
Came off the bench, yep.
If he got traded from the Spurs and he was, he's playing on another team somewhere, is he a starter? Or are they going to have him come in off the bench like they did when Derek White, right? Look at Derek White, right? He's over there in that second unit with Boston flourishing. Jeremy Sochan, I think he's not a starter. I think he is best served coming off the bench, being a high-energy player, helping that second unit, do all the little things down low, getting rebounds, playing defense, setting picks, setting screens, moving well without the ball, getting some little putbacks there, easy 2 points, That's what he's going to do. That's what he's going to give you. And I think that's better served on the second unit. It brings a little bit more balance. Same thing with Devin Vassell. At the end of the day, you have to have that balance, And credit to Coach Spo, man. A lot of Spurs fans, but NBA fans across the league. If you're looking at a really good coach that's been around for a while, you can't look anywhere, more than just looking at Coach Spo. Yeah. He knows the X's and O's, great adjusting that he does in game, coming in, from the third quarters as well, fourth quarter. He does a great job, man. I mean, I would love to see him as the next head coach of the San Antonio Spurs, Jeff, but he's locked in with Miami for quite some time. But credit to Spo for doing a great job. Yeah.
Yeah, he'll retire Miami Heat head coach. There's no doubt about that. But we thank y'all for leaving those comments. We appreciate them. Keep them coming. We still got another half of a season to go through. So you guys can be a part of the show whenever we do get around to some Locked On Spurs fan comments. We've been talking about it all show, Joe. Area 210 podcast. Got your alien buddy behind you there. What's going on, buddy?
Yeah, we're just talking, Monday through Fridays. You can catch me and Michael Jimenez talking San Antonio Spurs basketball, sports. We talk entertainment, pop culture, a little bit of nostalgia here and there as well while we go down memory lane. So the show is unique in the way that we let the fans dictate the I guess the flow of this show because it's live Monday through Friday starting at 10 a.m. finishing up around 11:30, but we've been going a little over as of late because we've had such great interaction with the fan base in the chat. So go ahead and check us out, man. We greatly appreciate a follow. If you go ahead and subscribe to us on YouTube, it does help our show grow. So again, we're getting some new faces. So we like to welcome any people that are listening right now to Locked On Spurs to come and take a listen to what we're doing because we think we have a decent show and we just appreciate the support and the love.
And you got a party coming up soon, right?
Yeah, we're actually going to have a party. It's a 2,000 subscriber party. We've already surpassed like 2,200 and I don't even know now. I have to go and look. We're growing and growing and we're going to have a 2,000 subscriber party at the Hidden Tavern. It's going to happen this Saturday. I believe Mike said it's going to happen around 7:00. So me and Mike are going to get there early around 6. The listeners and the fans all wanted us to do a karaoke party. So it's open to everybody. If you're in the San Antonio area and you happen to be here next Saturday, come over and enjoy the good times. I mean, unfortunately, Jeff is going to be busy. He won't be able to make it, but in your crew, come over and hang out with us.
Yeah, exactly. Go to Joe's X. That's probably the best way to go check out his show, Area 210 Podcast. Do that right now. I frequently come on the show. I think every Wednesday. Chop it up with Mike and Joe on a variety of topics. It's supposed to be Spurs, but we dive into San Antonio club history or something like that.
Nostalgia.
Nostalgia, yeah, a lot of it too. But it's a great show. Go subscribe. Make sure you do that right now. Joe, as always, we thank you for taking time out of your schedule to hop in here on Locked On Spurs. And we thank you all for making Locked On Spurs your first and only stop for all things San Antonio Spurs. Subscribe on Locked On Spurs YouTube page, Kansas Five Plus app, iTunes, Spotify. The list goes on and on. Subscribe to the Locked On Spurs newsletter. It's in the description below. On the YouTube side of things, it's completely free. It's a great newsletter. It's your inbox every single day. Go check it out. Joe, I don't know if the green screen is still giving me issues, so I don't know. You can see it's all sparkly and everything here on this shirt. I'm just going to say it's just Demon Slayer power coming out of me. That's what I'm going to say.
Bedazzled.
It's just, I don't know about bedazzled, Joe. I don't go that far, but it's just the grease. I noticed it right now. I was looking at your name there and I said, wait a minute. My shirt's sparkling. I said, you know what? It's just Demon Slayer power. So Demon Slayer. Yeah. By the way, Joe, I met the voice cast of Demon Slayer this past week.
Nice.
Yeah.
I know. You were hosting. You were working overtime over the weekend at the Kawacon. What was it? At the Henry B. Gonzalez Convention Center. Congratulations on doing a great job again, Jeff.
Yeah. Thank you, Joe. Yeah. It was a fun time. I got to meet the voice actors. Well, not all of them, but a good chunk of them for Demon Slayer. I was looking forward to that show, panel. Fun times all around. Got to learn some new things. Like apparently there's this club in Japan that is like the mecca of anime fans in that region. It's called Mogra. I don't know if you ever heard of this.
No.
The owner, guy who created it, I had to do a panel with him. And he was telling me about this, and fans lined up. And apparently, go look it up. It's spelled Mogra, Mogra. It's a nightclub where all they do is play anime and cartoon theme songs, but they remix them where they sound like legit, like techno house industrial music.
Yeah.
The owner said they open the doors around 10 a.m. or 10 p.m. their time, and they don't close it until 5 a.m.
Oh, wow.
So people,
Just like New York, yeah.
Oh, I miss those days. Like, it's just 4? What are we talking about? We still got a ways to go. I remember those moments for me. But Joe, again, thanks for hopping on Locked On Spurs. We'll be back tomorrow talking all things silver and black as the season continues. We're off to France. There's a big gap between the next game, so we'll keep you going here on Locked On Spurs. But for Joe Garcia, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lock on this episode of Locked On Spurs.